Well, it was a shocking derby. I mean, shocking derby. And perhaps it was for the most part. We'll get to the result because it does change the narrative. It's amazing, by the way, right? I mean, because the narrative, last 2, 3 minutes changed the entire narrative of the game because you can take a lot more. But in terms of quality, absolutely shocking. Perhaps it's the evidence why these teams are where they are. Although obviously Manchester United coming back and winning that changes that a little bit because now with the new manager, obviously you can always say, hey, being Manchester City, okay, they're in a bad way. It doesn't really matter because those 3 points could be a catalyst to a massive job, by the way, that Ruben Amorim has because it does. That's where the narrative changes because had City won that, we're talking about that in a way similar problems for both sides, right? To me, it didn't matter who won that game. What I've seen in this game, it just shows me how far away these two teams are from being their best. Manchester City, obviously, a little bit closer, I still think, in terms of quality and injured players. And for Ruben Amorim, it's still with a lot of the decisions that he had to make ahead of the game. The Manchester United are still not much closer to the glory days of United.
I mean, that may be the case. And of course, as you mentioned, there's a lot for them to do, specifically City. And we will talk about them, I promise everybody. And by the way, we have a live show here. So please send in your questions, Janusz, and yours truly will hope to answer them. But United, listen, 3 points, 3 massive points against their local rivals, which ignites this sense of energy for the Red Devils. I don't know what's going to happen after this, but at the very least, they can claim, Janusz, that they got 3 points. Before we get into the game for a second, the big one at the very beginning, right, was Alejandro Garnacho and Marcus Rashford, both omitted from the squad. Ruben Amorim gave a press conference, obviously right before the game, saying, I watch everything. I watch from, how you put on your clothes to how you train, and I notice everything, and everybody knows what the deal is. And, I guess I just want your reactions from that, having Garnacho and Rashford omitted from the squad.
Well, I mean, justified, again, 2 quick goals. Otherwise, I'm sure everybody's asking more questions of Ruben Amorim, but good on you, Mr. Ruben Amorim. Look, those of you that watch us, I mean, no shock to us, right? I mean, we've been selling Marcus Rashford since last season. I continue to stick with that. I don't think you get much more out of him. You're going to get some money because he is an English international. He is an English player, as we know how much value people put on that, and still young enough that somebody maybe a different environment can get a lot more out of him. I don't think that's going to happen here. But Garnacho, I've been very harsh on him as well. I just feel like it's the sort of player that he's everywhere, it seems, but not a lot comes out of it, right? Missing that composure, that culture of the, top players that play for top clubs, if you will. I know that top people don't like when we use it, but I think, we can hear. So obviously there's probably more than we know it. It has to be an attitude problem, in my opinion, because at the very least, you'd like to have a player like that on the bench in terms of coming in and changing the game. But let's not forget that Ruben Amorim's job is on the line. I'm not saying now because he just got there, but of course his decisions. He's been there. I think assess the players. He's been there 7, 8 games right now. He's only won 1. He's going to get plenty of time as he should. But at the end of the day, he has to look after himself and after the club as well. So seeing the players in 7 games, number of trainings as well. It feels like he's given the entire squad the benefit of the doubt. I think it's okay, and he's within his rights to make these decisions if he sees something. He obviously saw something that was worrisome, not just in games, but in training as well, for him to make a statement. In a Manchester derby, you don't make a statement just to make a statement, to show that you're a big boy, right? I think that something happened, and it'll come out, whatever exactly what happened, Luis.
Yeah, but the main point which you mentioned is that Ruben Amorim wants to change a culture here. He wants to change a way of thinking when it comes to training and the players available. And omitting 2 big players like that is basically, like you said, like, good for you. because you're trying to now write a new narrative here because what's happened in the past has not worked. So they are not in the squad, and the game begins, and you have AMAD Diallo on one side, Mason Mount on the other one behind Rasmus Højlund. Unfortunately for Mason Mount, he has to come off once again. Real sad for him. 7th time he's had to be removed from a action with a Manchester United shirt on. So, you know, things have to change for Amorim at the beginning. But the first half, Janusz, ends 1-0. Or is it a 0-0? I'm sorry, but it ends 0-0. But there's kind of a distraction in terms of United are not offering enough, and City continue to have patches. What did you make of the first 45 minutes?
I mean, look, you know, you start with United. Maybe we'll go there, because we saw a little bit different second half, and I'm not so sure that I'm influenced by the goals more than anything. But obviously, you know, City weren't maybe as dominant, because I mean, let's face it, for 30-35 minutes it was all City, right? And you know, Manchester United. This is why this narrative, that this win gives you a lot if you United Amorim. But at the end of the day, I hope that Ruben Amorim says, yes, we take the points, but we're far, far away from where I want us to be, which may be obvious, but it's all because, I mean, did you not get a feeling that you saw, you know, that this wasn't a Manchester United team? This was some League One team that was trying to cause a cup set. You know what I mean? There was absolutely nothing on offer from them. And Manchester City weren't super dangerous in terms of creating great chances in that first half, but they obviously dominated. The problem with Manchester City and why we are where we are, it's simple. United could always solve a puzzle. The puzzle of a team like Manchester United, like many others that come in with 5 defenders, just defend, right? Nothing's changed. And City dominated the position, but like in many games in the past, they just don't have the ability to get behind in combination play, right? Remember those great days when the great version of Ilkay Gundogan, Phil Foden, Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva would play these triangles on the side, a through ball, you get to the byline, cut back, thank you very much, or you know, and it doesn't happen. If you watch today, Jeremy Doku, I mean, everything was a cross, and I'm not a good one at that for the most part, right? So I think that's a problem. Nothing's changed. It's just that the teams know that Manchester City can't do that. So they still do the same thing. They still defend in numbers. They stay low, hope to hit City on the break, because obvious deficiencies there without Rodri and Kovacic, even though he came in today. But, you know, in the past, Manchester City would just solve that puzzle. And they're so far off, injuries aside, defensively in particular, players coming back. But everybody is so off-formed that I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, and just to reaffirm everybody, Joshua Gvardiol scored in the 36th minute, meaning City were leading in the first 45. But to your point, United, I think Amorim knew the limitations of his own team, especially going forward. They didn't have a shot on target until way later after 60 minutes. But then, because, as you mentioned, they couldn't solve that puzzle, City, and we have continued to see this. Remember, everybody, one win in the last 11 matches in all competitions. This is unprecedented numbers. One win in the last 8 in the Premier League under Pep Guardiola. And they couldn't get that second goal. Bruno Fernandes also missed a very good opportunity before what happened later in the stages. And then, Janusz, in the second half, some more players were introduced. But AMAD Diallo, I mean, if there's been one player that has really taken advantage of a new manager, it's him. He wins because of that horrible back pass from Nunes to Ederson, wins the penalty, and he scores the winner. What did you make of him, especially as the game continued?
Well, that's one player that I don't think if you're Ruben Amorim, have to worry about. I mean, he changed the game. As you rightfully said, he was the most dangerous player, great on both sides of the ball in terms of his work rate. And look, even that, you know, let me before I say what I'm going to say, because I mean, those are 2 unbelievable gifts that no team, especially at Manchester City, you know, you got to close the game. It's a terrible game. Yes, City still has problems. We all saw it, but you're at home. It's 1-0. United doesn't look like scoring, but we do have to say, with everything that Manchester City had in that first half and even the second half, that possession, they really didn't create anything dangerous, did they? I mean, even the goal itself, right? I mean, that deflection, I mean, maybe if it's not for that deflection, Gvardiol doesn't get a look like he does, right? And as you say, remember, AMAD had that glancing header. I think Bruno crossed that, which Ederson was at full stretch, and then Bruno Fernandes one-on-one. He's got to put that away when he goes wide. So in essence, unless I'm forgetting something, right? I think Manchester United actually had better chances. I'm not even saying the goals, because those are gifts. And that's our football, that in the end, it should have been Manchester City 1. We would have been saying the same thing as I'm saying right now, which is Manchester City can't solve the puzzle. They don't look right. There's nothing, absolutely nothing special for them. Manchester United, as we knew it, and that doesn't change, but this would have been the talk. A bet away from home, bet on set pieces, because they conceded another one, a short corner, if you will, right? Can't beat the top 6 teams. Well, 2 minutes changed it because of Nunes, who's been actually quite decent for Manchester City, right? Getting chances as of late. And then the second one, I mean, come on, right? I mean, Gvardiol, who's made mistakes. Today he scored a goal, didn't follow, saw AMAD go in, let him go, and then Ederson, out fishing.